Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you a video today to discuss the hot water trick and really whether or not it's a good or bad idea. Now, if you followed my channel for a little while now, I have made videos on this topic before. The last one I made was over 2 years ago, so it's been quite a while. I have some new thoughts on the topic, and since soccer cleats / football boots have changed so much over the last 2 years, I figured it was relevant for me to make a video on this topic again. A lot of you guys have been asking it as of lately, so I figured I would make another video on the matter. So, for those that don't know what the hot water trick is in the first place, basically you take your brand new soccer cleats and you dip them in a bowl, a bathtub, whatever it may be. You can even wear them in a shower using hot water or warm water. And basically what you're doing by dipping your shoes in hot water is you are simulating wear by way of heat. It's gonna heat up the materials on the shoe, which is in turn gonna make them a little bit softer. And when you put them on for the first time after letting them dry, of course, they're gonna feel more worn in. They're gonna feel like they're broken in ever so slightly. And break-in time is something that you're trying to simulate here. Break-in time is something that I could perhaps make another video on entirely. It's kind of a complex topic as it is, but that's essentially what you're trying to do with the hot water trick. You're trying to simulate wear time, allowing the shoes to feel more comfortable out of the box without actually having to wear them. You're softening the materials prior to the first wear, where normally if you didn't do the hot water trick, the shoe could potentially feel a little bit stiffer out of the box, a little bit stiffer at first. And of course, through wear, through heat from your feet naturally, it will soften up eventually, but you're kind of speeding up the process by using hot water. So is it a good or bad idea? It's not necessarily a bad idea. I don't want to say that the hot water trick is going to 100% damage your shoes every single time that you do it, because that's not necessarily true. If you do use water that is perhaps too hot, it is potentially possible that you could cause damage to your shoes, not necessarily because of the water itself, but you do have glues attaching the upper to the sole plate, and if you do heat up that material too much, it is definitely possible that you can weaken the bond between the sole plate and the upper. It is fairly unlikely, but if you do use boiling hot water, it's a very strong possibility that that can happen. So for that reason, I don't necessarily recommend using super hot water. I know people will use the argument that you can just kind of hold the shoes above the water and simply dip the upper in and not where the sole plate connects, so you're kind of avoiding heating up that part of the shoe. And if you really want to do that, again, be my guest. It's not necessarily something that's going to harm the shoes, at least when you're talking about a synthetic material. With a leather upper, I really don't think that the hot water trick is a good idea. You can do it still if you absolutely want to, but again, exposing any shoe to excessive amounts of moisture, or just straight up water in this case, is generally not a good thing. You can end up waterlogging the shoe, which is definitely more likely with something that's made from a natural leather material. And again, it's kind of just unnecessary. So that is the major thing that I would say about the hot water trick, is that it is more or less unnecessary. You can go about doing it if you really want to, but for the most part, it's not something that you need to do, especially with modern soccer cleats. Soccer cleats have gotten to a point where they are so thin and to a certain extent much more flexible than they used to be, that the break-in process tends to be a lot easier than it once was. You're not really going to get in too many shoes where they feel super stiff out of the box and it takes a long time to break them in. I would say most shoes nowadays, you can put them on, wear them straight into a game, and for the most part not have too many issues as long as they fit you properly. Again, I don't necessarily recommend doing that. If you have a brand new pair of shoes, it's best to wear them in a practice, very light, take things easy. Don't necessarily take a bunch of shots or do a bunch of sprints at first. Make sure you feel comfortable in the shoes before doing any kind of intense movements. But break-in time and how to break in shoes, that's a completely different topic for another video. If you guys want to see that, let me know down below in the comment section. But again, to use hot water to simulate wear time, I just feel is a little bit unnecessary, especially when you're talking about all of these knitted and mesh-based synthetic materials. The point of a knitted upper is to create a sock-like feel, and the core of these knitted uppers is a knitted material, something that is not going to be impacted by moisture or water. So it would be the equivalent of buying a brand new pair of socks and then saying that they're going to be more comfortable after I dip them in hot water. It's just kind of something that is unnecessary. I know the heel area would be the main part of the shoe that you're trying to make more comfortable, but I would make the argument that by dipping the heel area, even that, in hot water, yeah, the material may soften up a little bit, but at the end of the day, the break-in process is still gonna rely on your foot more or less getting used to the way that particular shoe feels. If you're wearing a brand new shoe for the first time, it's not necessarily gonna feel perfect right out of the box. There's gonna be some process where you're either getting used to how they feel, you're getting used to how they fit. They're different from what you were wearing before, and that's really what break-in time has become. It's more so just getting used to something that fits and feels a little bit different, as opposed to actually breaking in a material that's super stiff and rigid. I think a great example, and something I have talked about in previous hot water trick videos that I've made, is something like the Nike Mercurial Superfly 1, 2, and 3. Those are all shoes that are super stiff, kind of a rigid plasticky type upper, that if you did use hot water on that particular upper, it made a legitimate difference right away as opposed to breaking them in naturally. But with a lot of these shoes, given that they have gotten so much thinner and so much more flexible out of the box, again, I just think that using the hot water trick is more or less something that you just don't need to do. You can do it if you really want to. Be careful, like I mentioned at the start of the video, but it isn't entirely necessary. So that is kind of my stance on the hot water trick. I personally do not use it at all, and I break in new shoes very, very regularly with all this testing stuff that I do. So if that means anything to you, I guess take that for what it is. But for me personally, I just feel like the hot water trick is unnecessary, but be my guest if that is something that you would like to try. I just wouldn't necessarily recommend doing it. So if you have any questions on this topic, leave it down below in the comment section, and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.